The Build Show, we are not on the road today. In fact, we're at my house. And on today's episode, we're gonna be putting a metal roof on my house. We've been anticipating this project for a long time. I'm really excited to finally get one put on. We're gonna be talking about the process, how to specify it, why I like metal, and I'm gonna show you a couple install methods you've probably never seen before. Today's episode is sponsored by Sheffield Metals. Let's get going. First, let's talk about why I like metal roofs. You know, when I first moved to Texas 15 years ago, I put a metal roof on the very first house I built. And I vividly remember shortly after we finished that house, we had a nasty storm that came through with some serious hail. And I got a phone call from a homeowner the night after, the morning after that storm, who said, "Matt, I got a problem." I was like, "Oh my gosh, what happened? Do we have a leak? What's the deal?" And Bill said, "You know what? I'm the only roof in the neighborhood that doesn't need to be replaced after that storm last night." And from then on, that homeowner called his house the SS Reisinger. It was really a reminder for me of why I chose metal to begin with, and really why I've chosen it for so many projects over the years since then. There's a huge durability story with metal. You know, that hailstorm that came through, almost all the roofs in the neighborhood that were asphalt that got replaced. They can't take the hail like metal can. Now, I'm not saying that you wouldn't have a storm bad enough to damage your metal roof, but you'll find out later there's different gauges of metal, and we're going to talk about that a bit. But metal is incredibly good in the really hard and harsh weather. I also like the durability of a metal roof. You know, typical metal roofs are going to last double the lifespan of an asphalt roof. So this is a roof that's going to be on a long time, decades certainly, if not longer. Couple other things I like about metal is the reflectivity. You know, there's a bunch of cool roof options with metal. They're gonna reflect the sun's heat back and keep your attic and your house in particular much, much cooler because of that metal on top. And lastly, I really like the story of the recyclability of a metal roof. You know, in 50 to 75 years, when I need to replace this roof someday, the roofer will take it off and it'll be recycled and we'll make a brand new roof out of that. Again, there's some beauty to having a steel roof on your house. It's not gonna go in the landfill, it's gonna be recycled someday. Hey Doug, let's talk about roof thickness and gauge. What are we putting on here?
Today on your house, we're putting on a 24 gauge galvanized G90 substrate, and it's an 1.5 inch snap block standing seam roof panel.
Okay, so 1.5 inch snap block, meaning this rib here is going to be 1.5 inches.
That's correct.
And snap block, meaning it's going to snap down and screw on so there's no fasteners exposed, right?
That is correct.
Gotcha.
It's a concealed fastener system.
So this is not the only gauge available though to someone who's thinking about a metal roof, right?
No, you'll also see 26 gauge, which you have a sample of there.
Yep.
And sometimes you also see 29 gauge.
Okay, so these are thinner gauges, right? As you go up in number, you've got a thinner metal, right?
Absolutely,
And
softer.
So what's the difference then between a 24 and a 26 gauge?
26 gauge is going to be a little more flexible. It's also available in a couple of different paint systems.
But in general, it's a thinner metal, maybe a little more prone to damage. And then this sample is a 29 gauge, which
Correct.
is even thinner than the 26 gauge. Can you do this to that panel right there?
No, not easily.
Yeah, it's pretty thick, isn't it? It's hard to bend it.
Correct.
So what are people doing with 29 gauge for metal?
Typically, you're going to see it in a metal building application, but also if it is residential, it's typically in a exposed fastener or a screw down roof panel.
Gotcha, so you've got actually a screw going through the face of the panel to hold that down.
Correct.
And my assumption is this is going to be much more prone to damage, someone walking on it, hailstorms, like that story of my homeowner that called his house the SS Reisinger. That was 24 gauge, much more beefy, much more rigid, much harder to damage than something as thin as this 29 gauge.
Absolutely. 29 gauge, with it being as soft as it is going to be prone to hail damage for sure.
Over the years, I've really specified 24. In the last 15 years I've been doing metal roofing. I think this is the way to go. I would stay away from these thinner gauges, and one benefit of going with Sheffield is the vast majority of what they sell is all 24 gauge. So if you know you've got a Sheffield metal roof on your house, more than likely it's going to be at least a 24 gauge. Next, let's talk profile on my roof, and I've got with me Thad from the Metal Roofing channel. Now Thad, you guys are actually publishing 2 videos a week.
That's right.
To your channel. So tell me about the profile we're using on my house, Thad.
Sure, so this is a snap lock profile. It's an 1.5 inch snap lock. So the ribs that we see right here, that's an 1.5 inch high.
Okay, so this is 1.5 inches here.
That's right. So a clip goes down onto the roof deck, gets screwed down, and then the female side attaches over the clip, and that's how the roof is engaged.
Got it. And that's why the name snap lock, because it snaps in place.
Exactly.
Now, what's the other option?
Yeah, so another option that you see in standing seam is mechanical lock. Instead of snapping into place, the two panels come together like this and actually gets folded over, and that's how the roof is engaged that way.
Got it. So a robot actually is folding that and running all the way up to the top of the roof and mechanically folding that. Now, when would you use snap lock versus a mechanically seamed roof?
Right, so a snap lock roof will shed water. When you get down to a lower pitch, you're going to want to switch to a mechanical lock, something around a 212 or less. Switch to mechanical lock, and then that roof will be able to shed that water.
Got it. So I'm 512 here. Snap lock's a perfect fit. I've got a job coming up that's a 112. In that case, we're going to mechanically seam that metal roof. And my understanding is you go down to about a half in 12 with a mechanically seamed roof, because that mechanical seam is going to really shed the water off that seam. Whereas this one, if you had a lower pitch, you could actually, in theory, get some water through there.
Yeah, so a snap lock roof is hydrokinetic, while a mechanical lock is hydrostatic. So that's that shedding versus standing.
Got it. Now, what's the difference between these two panels?
Yeah, so if you see closely here, you can see some kind of pattern in the field of the panel here. These are called striations.
Okay.
And a striation helps eliminate the appearance of oil canning over time. In the flat of the panel, as you see here, sometimes depending on the light, you can get some oil canning in the field, but having some kind of pattern like a striation or a pencil rib in the field here helps to eliminate that.
Yeah, and I've done both over the years. A lot of clients like that flat panel, a lot of architects like that. But you have to know that oil canning is possible, and by oil canning, what we mean is that metal can expand and contract depending on the weather. So as it gets hot, it's going to expand. You can sometimes see a little bump or wave in there. And also, if your roof is not perfectly flat on the deck, you might see some of those imperfections come through on a flat panel. Whereas the striations, am I pronouncing that right? Striations, yep. I was close. This is going to help hide some of those imperfections. And I'll tell you, on my roof, I definitely opted for the striations. That's what I would recommend, even though a lot of times the architects and clients that I work with want the flat panel. I try and talk everybody into the striations.
Yeah, and that, like you said, it's so important to make sure your roof is in plane to minimize that oil canning, because you can see a little clip if it just dips a little bit in your roof deck. If there's some kind of plywood that's off center a little bit, then you can really see that oil canning and that clip will show through.
Yeah, and when the guys were here a minute ago with the roll former, you can see it's really simple. At the end, they're just putting an extra roller set down, and it goes from flat to the striations.
And you can adjust that roller set to make these striations deeper or thinner, depending on what you're going for, what kind of look you need.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Cool. So underneath this silver is our real underlayment that's doing our true duties. This reflective material is just reflecting the sun's rays, but we need that air gap, and that air gap is going to give us a bunch of benefits. Certainly it's going to give us the radiant benefit, but the other big benefit is any cladding on the outside of a house, I want an air gap behind it, because any water that gets past my system, I want a clear path for that water to be able to drain out and for air to flow and dry it out. And with a metal roof, it is possible that some condensation could happen on the back side of the roof. We want to make sure that in the times of the year that condensation occurs, that there's a drainage path and there's an airflow to dry it. So here's how we achieve that. Before we put this drip edge on, you'll notice right here, I've got this corrugated plastic with these channels running vertically. We put that on first, and then we put the drip edge on, and the drip edge is going, in this case, over top of 1x4s. Now these 1x4s are spaced at a 45 all the way up the roof, so that now I've got airflow from the eave here into this cavity, and then we're going to put a ridge vent on that will vent that at the very top. This is also kind of a cool time to see how the snap lock works. If you look over here, each panel gets snapped onto the other panel, and then on this side, it's actually getting screwed down. And you can see we've got 2 screws in each one of those going all the way up the roof, and they're only screwing it right here at the 1x4. You'll also notice that we've solid decked at the valley. Now that's 5/8 plywood at the valley, so we've got solid. When we're walking on that, we're not gonna ding or mess up our valley. And then we've spaced these about 16 inches on center, and then you'll notice at some areas like where we've got hips and where we've got our eave, we've also put an additional small piece in there to make sure that when people in the future are stepping on this, that we're not going to bend that metal. It's 24 gauge, it's pretty solid. You saw us earlier, it's pretty hard to bend, but you want a little solid extra backing in those sensitive areas. Hey guys, I'm here with Adam from Sheffield, and Adam, walk us through the process from basically the roof deck on up and some of the products we used on my house.
Sure. There's a number of options when you're getting into any re-roof, whether it's metal, whether it's shingle. You're going to put an underlayment on. And
Yep.
with a metal product, we prefer to use products that are going to last the duration of the metal roof.
Makes sense.
You know, we used a product called Sharkskin Ultra SA. This is a full self-adhering ice and water shield
Yeah, so
underlayment.
peel and stick, as those
Peel and
builders
stick,
refer
yeah.
to it.
So,
And what's different about this compared to some of the other peel and sticks on the marketplace?
so you see how wide this is? This is the
I
full
like that.
width of it. That's
4
a
foot roll is
48
nice.
wide roll. Yep, 4 foot wide roll. The other nice piece of it is it's a dual slip sheet, but the other massive benefit, it's got a 50-year warranty, 12-month UV. So
That's a big
you
deal.
know, big deal for storms. You
Yeah,
know,
for
if you
me
get a
too.
big hailstorm, or you know, if you got a lot of work, you just got to get it dried in. It's going to be able to last for 12 months, and you can still put the roof on afterwards without tearing it off or putting another layer down.
Adam, tell me the temperature ratings on this product.
Yeah, so this is a high temp ice and water, so it's going to be about 260 degrees for the high temp on it.
That's pretty impressive. So you can use it in really cold weather, and when we're talking about a 50-year underlayment, you have to know there's going to be times when it's super hot underneath that roof. So
Yep.
that 260 is a big deal.
Yep.
You actually got me on the horn the other day with the inventor of the product. It was really cool to talk to him. And he was telling me that we've got a special butyl adhesive, plus because the facer is different than some of the other products in the marketplace, they're gonna really be able to take that high temperature, and it's gonna be able to take that for decades. So that's important for me to put an underlayment on that's gonna last as long
Yeah.
as my roof.
Yeah, and so you talk about the product as well, being recyclable, sustainable. This is a recyclable product as well at the end of its useful life cycle. So this product can go and be recycled additional to the metal roof.
That's cool. Now you
Yeah.
can't see this right now because we've got something else on top of that. Now what's up there now?
Correct. So we have this on the deck, and then above that we've got this product, Sharkskin Ultra Radiant, and you can't even see this. What you're seeing is the highly reflective side. So
Yeah.
what this is doing is providing an additional thermal barrier to reflect that additional thermal radiation that's coming in, or solar radiation that's coming in, and helping reject that. And then beyond that, the additional thing that you're doing is the ventilation to continue to push that cross airflow through.
Yeah, let me get
the roof
nerdy for a
system.
second, Adam. You
Yeah.
know, we all remember from high school science class, there's 3 types of heat transfer. There's convection, conduction, and radiation. And radiation is similar to your microwave, right? So when you put the burrito in the microwave wrapped in aluminum foil, it's not going to heat. That's a similar science practice to what's happening by putting this reflective foil on the roof deck. It's radiating the sun's rays back at it. And what it's going to do is lower the attic and ultimately the house temperatures because of that. However, this can't be sandwiched. It needs to have an air gap facing towards the silver side. So that's why in this case we put it up. Now these guys at Sharkskin, they also make a dimple mat where you could put a dimple mat on first and then you could put it on top this way, so the radiant would actually be facing down towards the dimple mat.
Yeah.
We chose not to do that method, but either way, this is a really good deal for us in the South. And again, that's also because I chose a dark color roof, Adam.
Yeah.
Now you guys have a lot of roofs that are considered cool roofs where you may not need this, right?
Well, technically, a lot of the paint is considered cool paint, whether you have a high SRI or a low SRI, so
Okay.
they're all quote-unquote cool pigments. So you could have a black roof with a 25 SRI.
So tell me what that means for
PVDF.
people watching this, 25 SRI.
So the 25 SRI is basically the percentage of solar reflectance, initial solar reflectance, or that immediate solar that is being reflected by that by the roof or by
Gotcha.
the pigmentation. So look at it like, you know, black or really dark colors are not going to reflect as much. They're going to absorb more. Where the lighter colors, the whites, the light earth tones, those are going to reflect a lot more of the colors. And you might not need a product like that, or to reflect all
It's
of
less
it, because
important.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
While we're on that topic, let's talk about the color that I chose, and tell me a little bit about paint finishes and what people need to know about the color on the metal as well.
sure. So the paint on a metal roof it's going to be roll coated, and it's baked in an oven. So this isn't some guy coming out with a spray gun. That can certainly be done. It can certainly be resurfaced, but this is a real high-end technology. This is a PVDF, or a Kynar type paint system.
Okay.
That's really the cream of the crop. As you scale down, you have silicon polyesters or silicon modified polyesters, or
Okay.
SMPs. The big difference between SMP and Kynar is that the Kynar roofs are going to last or keep their color, hold that vibrant color a lot longer. They're typically have that better cool pigmentation technology, so you're going to get a better SRI out of a lot of Kynar.
More reflectance, more of that
Exactly.
rejection of the sun's heat.
Exactly. This particular item is a product called Vintage or Vintage 3 from one of our partners, Steelscape.
I love this color.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet color. It does a lot of neat things in the sun that we'll get into, but this product is really designed to, you know, be a highly reflective, darker pigmentation type product. This is a specialty product, so it actually costs a little bit more than your traditional 24 gauge, you know, standard color product.
But I love the look. I think it can't be beat. It's worth paying a little more, I think, for this color.
Yeah.
But on your standard colors, what's kind of the general paint finish warranty on one of the more standard colors?
We use a warranty from Sherwin-Williams. It's a 40-year film adhesion warranty, and beyond that, depending on the color, they rate the color change warranty anywhere from 20 to 30 years on all of our products otherwise.
Okay. And I'm going to make Adam close his ears for a second, because I'm going to tell you what I think the warranty / how long this metal roof should last. So close them for a second. I think these roofs, including mine, it's probably a 50 to 75 year roof. And I always tell my clients, look, it's probably going to get replaced, not because it's failed or because it you know, needed to be torn off because of a hailstorm. It's probably going to get replaced someday because of some rust showing or because of an aesthetic issue, not because the roof itself has failed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
on the non-corporate line?
Yeah, I would really say that the roof is going to last, the metal itself is going to last a real long time. As you start getting into that 50+ year, that paint is really going to get chalky and stuff like that. And somebody, you know, mom might come out and, you know, 6 years and say, you know, I really like green.
Right,
And say,
right.
well, what do we do about that? Do we paint it
Yeah.
or do we replace it?
Yeah,
So,
good point. The other thing I'd mention is keep leaves and other things that are going to hold moisture off that roof. So if you've got a spot on your house that always collects leaves, get up there occasionally and blow those off, because that's the kind of stuff that's going to rust that roof prematurely and maybe not make it last that full 50 to 75 years.
Yeah, and on the Metal Roof channel, we talk about maintenance. We preach maintenance in a lot of what we do. Maintenance really isn't a difficult thing, but it's really keeping the roof free and clear of debris.
Yep.
You know, standing leaves on there, pollen, sap, things like that. Get it off, and you'll have a roof that's going to last a long time.
Now, on that point, though, if someone in 20, 30 years wanted to change this roof color, could they do that on the roof already?
Realistically, they could, but keep in mind, I mentioned about air dry Kynars versus
Factory
applied Kynars. The factory ones are actually baked on. They last much longer. The air dry ones tend to fade a lot quicker. Still a nice paint system, but it's going to be a tough paint system, but it's still going to fade a lot faster than.
That's interesting. Well, maybe my kids, when they inherit this house, they might repaint it in 30 years or 40 years. I could see that.
Yeah.
Hey, Adam, I want to finish up with talking about the difference between vintage, which is the color I chose, and this color. Now, what is this color right here?
So this is bonderized paint grip. It's known by a number of things in the industry. I think popular down here, it's called paint grip.
Yeah, architects in Austin and all over Texas love paint grip. My understanding of this finish is that it's really meant to take paint, and it's not meant to be left exposed, but architects in Austin love it. It's a real matte finish.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has a little mottled look. It's kind of got that battleship gray color. However, it has some downsides, and I don't think this finish is going to last as long. So tell me about the difference between paint grip, let's say, and vintage like I chose.
So both are a G90 substrate.
Okay.
So you know, the long
G90 meaning the type of galvanic.
Yeah, it's the coating that's over the cold rolled steel core that's in here. So the long and the short of it is, though, is this is actually paint. This is more of a phosphate coating. So this isn't even paint, but it's something that's going to stay on here, but it gets white and chalked out and faded real fast. Like you said, it's designed to go and be painted over. So the nice thing about it is you can solder this material. You can also do a lot of ornate shapes, a lot of ornate bends, and where you see the solder lines, the intention is, well, we're going to go and paint that.
So it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So a lot of people look at it like it doesn't matter, and then they go and paint it, and away you go.
And funny enough, I got this paint grip sample from my local sheet metal company that bends a lot of my flashings, Capital Company, and we didn't even do this on purpose. But look at it. If you look close, you can see a lot of the scratches on this sample, and that's something to be cautious of, right? When we put this on houses, I tell my clients, look, it can scratch, and that's not a warranty or a failure. That's part of it. You're also going to potentially see fingerprints. So sometimes the roofers need to wear gloves, and if they forget or something happens, you can still see those fingerprints. It's hard to clean off.
You brought up another good point. There's no warranty on this, and on the vintage product, you've got a 20-year warranty.
Yeah, you're also going to have a much more uniform look with this than the paint grip.
Yeah.
Every roll is going to be different on the paint grip. So it is beautiful. I've used it a bunch, but I always preface that with, here's the downsides, Mr. and Mrs. Klein. And in fact, I have my clients sign a little waiver that says, I've heard those downsides, and I still want to proceed with it, because that's fine as long as you know the downsides. This, however, the Steelscape Vintage is hot in Austin because architects see that it's similar in color, but it's got fewer downsides.
Yeah.
Anyways, Adam, I really appreciate you coming out, helping me with my install over here. Adam, tell us about your YouTube channel that you guys run.
So we run something called the Metal Roofing Channel. We come out with videos every Monday and Wednesday, and we're really focused on supporting the metal roofing industry. Really helping people be educated on it. Metal roofing is got a lot of misnomers and a lot of myths, so we address a lot of the things that are out there about metal roofing, and really trying to show people that it can be used almost anywhere.
That's right. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
I'll put a link in the description to their YouTube channel as well as their website. But remember, if you specify Sheffield, there's a lot of benefits. We talked earlier with Doug about the gauge thicknesses, about the top quality paints they're using from Sherwin-Williams. It's good stuff from Sheffield. I really appreciate you coming. Guys, if you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show. A little afterthought on this project, guys. This is really a dream come true for me to finally get this metal roof. I bought this house. This is a 1970s house. I bought this in 2007 at the height of Austin's market. It really paid at the peak of pricing. And promptly the market went down, and honestly, I struggled for a couple years during the recession to pay my bills, to keep my contracting business afloat. I built a spec house that I was having trouble selling. And on this roof that was here before, I had a shingle roof. When I bought the house, it was only 5 or 6 years old. It was just a cheap 3-tab shingle roof. A hailstorm came through, that same hailstorm I told you about at the beginning, that my client's roof made it through no problem. And mine suffered a bunch of damage on this house. Now, my insurance company gave me a payout on the metal roof, and I needed that money. It was a godsend for me. I actually paid my mortgage with that check, knowing that someday I would replace it, and I always wanted a metal roof. But at that moment in time, I needed the money to pay my bills. It was a hard time for me during the recession as a contractor. So fast forward a couple years, and I had the money to replace my roof, but again, I didn't want to just put a shingle roof down. I wanted to wait until I could afford the metal roof. Now, we didn't talk a lot about costs on the video, but typically a metal roof is going to be about double the cost of a shingle roof. This is not an inexpensive roof, but this is a roof that's going to last a long, long time. This will last longer than I'll be around. This is going to be here for a long time, and I think it's a much better look. It's going to weather those storms. I'm not going to have to replace this if a hailstorm comes through. This is really an awesome roof, and I'm sure glad to finally be able to put this on my house. Big thanks to my friends at Sheffield for sponsoring today's video, for bringing their experts in to help talk us through the process. If you need anything, contact these guys. They're a great company. I've been really impressed with their personnel. Guys, thanks for following me on this special From My House edition of The Build Show. And follow along as we remodel that house down the street that I'm working, that 1970s house. We got a bunch of fun stuff on there. That first video we published got a lot of views, and a lot of people are talking about it. So more to come. I'll see you soon.